Hey, ladies, we are here today, and I'm talking about the past shapes you but does not define you. The future pulls you forward, but it's what you do each moment that can change your life. So it's Peter here, and I am super, super excited because I have a guest with me today, and that is the lovely Leslie, who is a guest speaker, and she is also the author of the best-selling book, You Can't Eat Love. And this is such a powerful message about embracing your emotions, cultivating self-love, and just building healthy relationships, but not just with others, with yourself. So I got to know Leslie through self-publishing school when we both just, well, she was already writing her book. I decided to write my book. And I just connected straight away. We were just chatting before we started today and said it's almost 3 years. So welcome, Leslie. Really, really appreciate that you are taking the time out today to talk to us.
Well, Peter, thank you so much. I was so excited when you asked if I would like to do a conversation with you because I follow you very diligently and I see the transformation that you bring to other women. And I just get really excited about the work that you do. And I keep telling myself, you know what? One day I'm going to make it to Australia and I'm going to spend some time with you in your studio and we're going to take walks and see those amazing sunrises and amazing sunsets that you're always posting about. So this is an absolute treat for me to get to talk to you.
Oh, thanks so much. And I often think how blessed I am because virtually I have those hiking trails just, just there type of thing. So it is wonderful. And I think sometimes we can take for granted those wide open spaces that we have and what's out and about. And we don't spend a lot of time actually smelling the smells and touching things and getting in contact with all our senses. And that's just the way I love to do it. So, but anyway, let's dig into my very first question for you is I'd love to know some backstory about your book and what led you to write it. And by the way, I love the title, You Can't Eat Love.
Well, thank you so much. What led me, well, the journey that I went on that ended up being revealed in the book is back in 2016, I hit what I call a low. I don't want to say I hit a bottom because I feel like that tempts the fates to say, you think that was bottom, I'll just show you. Anyway, I hit a low point in my life and I realized I could go one of two directions. I could either keep going the way that I was going or I could make a change. And I decided that I was going to get healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. I picked
Mm-hmm.
all three areas because I realized if I focused on one, it wasn't going to work. I needed to focus on both the mental health, the physical health, and the emotional health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I tell people now that if I would have known how hard it was going to be, I don't know that I would have ever started. However, I'm grateful that I was clueless
Yeah.
because the transformation on the other side has just absolutely been amazing. And I am now living my very best life. Um, just for a little bit of reference, I will be turning 66 in just a few days from when we are recording this. So
Mm-hmm.
I am not, in my 40s or 30s. So those of you who are in, PETA's group, I am there with you age wise. And I can tell you honestly, I'm living my best life. The hard part of the entire journey was really getting in touch with my emotions and understanding that I could feel those emotions. I could sit in them. Sometimes it was for a second, sometimes it was for a minute, but they were my emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as I tell people now, my feelings, my emotions are mine, and nobody else gets a vote.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, and we can sometimes worry about what other people think and say. about how we're responding to different things, but it is about us and those feelings that we have. That low point that you hit, what did that look and feel like for you?
It looked and felt like nobody loved me, that
Yep.
I didn't have any value, I didn't have any place on the face of this earth, that the world would be a whole lot better off if I didn't exist anymore. I mean, if I'm really, really honest, that's what the low point looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sometimes go to bed at night asking, that I not wake up the next morning,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it was just that painful. And people will look at me and they'll be like, oh, no, no, no. You know what? I'm through lying about my feelings. I'm through lying about my emotions and my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Really and truly, I didn't want to wake up the next day, because the thought of going through another day in the kind of pain that I was in, which was really emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
and mental pain, which was leading to physical pain because I was not taking care of my body. I was using food was my drug of choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was using food to help numb the pain that I did not know how to feel.
Yeah.
And I'm just very, very grateful that I took a breath. And that's really what I did. I just took a breath and said, okay, you can go one of two ways. You
Mm-hmm.
can keep going, or we can drive a stake in the ground. And I actually have a real live stake in the ground out in my yard, and we can do something different. And I'm grateful that I chose to do something different.
So was it in one of those nights when you just went, I don't want to wake up tomorrow morning? Was it one of those nights where you just, there was this light bulb moment that said, hang on a minute, I do have that little bit of value. What am I going to do to make that feel better for myself? What do you think it
It,
was?
it actually, what it was is I had started tracking what I was eating.
Okay.
And I know that's one of the things that you advocate, that, we track what we eat. Um, because if we don't know what we're eating, we don't know what we're eating. And so I
Mm,
started writing down what I was eating. And as I did that, I would be honest with myself. And I was writing down even the things that I hadn't planned to eat, cookies, chips, things like that.
yeah.
And I'm looking at that, and I said to myself, and it was an accidental thought, I said to myself, what was really going on
Mm-hmm.
that you were eating that? And I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting question. So I took a deeper breath and I wrote, this is what I'm feeling when I was eating this.
Yes.
And I could see, I was feeling very sad because this had happened. I was feeling very hurt because somebody said something that hurt me. I was feeling very upset because at that time my oldest son had decided he didn't want me to be a part of his life. And I
Yeah.
started realizing, as I wrote, that I was getting honest with myself about my feelings. And as I started getting honest with myself about my feelings, I started feeling hope. I said, you know what? If you can manage to just breathe for 1 second in
Yep.
this pain, then just try and breathe for one more second and one more second. And there were days when I 1 seconded my way through the entire day.
Mm.
But you know
Yeah.
what? Here I am. It's 2023. That
Yeah.
was 2016. I'm not 1 seconding my way through the day anymore. Some days I'm 1 minuting my way through the day,
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's 24 hours and they're all good.
Yeah. There was something that you said there in regards to um starting to write down, so starting to track what you were eating. So do you think the point for you was when you caught a glimpse of yourself in a mirror or a window, or was it other people saying to you, you need to take care of yourself? What actually transpired for you to start doing the tracking?
Well, it was New Year's Eve, and my husband and I had been talking.
Yeah.
We've
I
been
laugh,
talking.
have New Year's Eve parties. So, so I'm laughing about that. Yes.
Anyway, we had been talking about doing some remodeling in the kitchen area. We'd been talking about it for 20 years. Well, at this point in time, all the kids were, off on their own or in school or something. It was just he and I and the dogs in the house. And I said to him, I really would like to do this. And he said, well, go for it. And I was like, really? So I got I started pulling the refrigerator out, and I started, sledgehammering through the sheetrock, and he was taking photographs. And I saw the photographs. I didn't recognize myself. I thought it was one of my brothers. And I was like, oh my.
I got goosebumps. I've seen those photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Isn't it's interesting how just sometimes just seeing yourself, but what we can do is sometimes we see it, but we do nothing.
Right.
We just keep moving forward instead of actually spending that moment going, okay, I'm actually truly looking at this. And that's where it comes down to all of those senses that I was talking about. Spending that time. If you think about, being a child, how much did we, play, and we'd smell the flowers, and even though they might not be flowers, they could be totally weeds or something like that. We were always into it, and we play in the mud, and we do all sorts of things, climb trees, um, and just feel the sun or the breeze on our face, or we play in puddles, and all of those types of things. And if we can take those lessons of that connection that we had as a child,
Mm-hmm.
and bring that into our adulthood, and give ourselves that time to, as you said, breathe and scrape away the layers of truly connecting with ourselves, that's when we can start to go, okay, I need to start tracking, or what is it that I need to do to take those first steps?
Well, and the other thing that I recognized, and I'm glad that you brought up a child. Think about when a baby starts walking, what is it that we do? We cheer and we celebrate for each little
Oh,
tiny step. It doesn't make any difference if it's a half a step and they fall down. It doesn't matter. We are cheering and we're celebrating. A child
mm,
learns how to ride a bike, or they do something for the first time. We're cheering and we're celebrating.
mm,
What I realized was that I had stopped celebrating anything in my life.
yes.
And this is something that I tell people that I talk to all the time. You can hand somebody a script,
Mm-hmm,
and you can tell them exactly what to say, how to move, the actions to make, the facial expressions, and all of that, and have that person fully scripted out and rehearsed and all that stuff, so that when you do something amazing, you turn to them and you say, okay, go. And then they do it. You're going to be disappointed.
mm-hmm,
They're not going to do it the way that you want it done. They're not going to celebrate you as you would want. It's not going to be heartfelt. It's not, there's something that's going to be lacking. So
mm-hmm,
what I realized was, if I am not giving myself that, how can I expect someone else to give it to me? So I started celebrating crazy celebrating. Any little tiny step that I was taking, sometimes it was just going, yes, I did it. I did it. Other times it's, turning on share and dancing around to, I believe in life after love.
Yeah.
Just all these crazy things. Because when we celebrate, we say, you know what? That felt really good. I can do it again.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned this, Leslie, because one of the things that we have our ladies do in our VIP community, which is the Fit Flexer community, it's checking in every week. And that check-in has lots of, just numbers in it, and it's always just numbers. But there are three really, really important aspects to it. What were your wins this week?
Mm-hmm.
What were your challenges this week? And what are you going to focus on in the up and coming week? But it's the wins that really has the roadblock. It's like, I didn't really do anything this week. I
Yep.
didn't see anything that I could celebrate.
Yep.
And I have to go, well, hang on a minute. Didn't you do this? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And so it's really important that when we do something that was for the first time, or we achieve something, that we should celebrate it right there in that moment and actually give ourselves the accolades for it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in giving those accolades, we could all be different. So, you might want to dance around the house to Sure, or you might simply just want to go, woohoo, I did well, So it depends on your personality and what that celebration might look like to you. So I'm not sure. Have you read the book by Mel Robbins, um, the high five
The
habit?
high five.
The
I
high five.
haven't, but I've heard a lot of people who talk about it. They say, the high five, and it's
Yeah,
essentially the thing.
it is the same thing. And she talks about
Um,
all of the changes that happen in your brain when you're giving yourself a high five. And, when I read it, it all made total sense to me. But for me personally, giving myself a high five is not something that I grew up with. So it was like, it didn't relate to me. But doing the old fist pump, that was something that related. So it's interesting how it depends on the era, I think, that you grew up in and what you experienced.
mhm.
And it all comes back down to, your emotions, your feelings are yours. How you celebrate is yours, because the wonderful thing is that we are all unique and we should all be valued for who we are and what we bring to this world.
1000%. And I'm really, really glad that you mentioned, Mel Robbins and the high five, because I'm extremely uncomfortable doing high fives, and I feel really silly, running
Yeah.
around high fiving myself. It's not me. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I can do me,
Yes.
and that is okay. And one of the things that I did give myself permission to do, and I encourage anybody who's listening who thinks, well, this lady is absolutely crazy. My kids will tell you, yes, you are correct, I am. But but let's just back the bus up just a tiny bit. You have a way, the people listening, have a way of celebrating you that feels authentic to you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
simply saying, as you recognize that you did something, I don't care how big or small it is, start celebrating in that way that's authentic to you. And you'll be really surprised at how easy it is to try the next hard thing. But the other thing, here is the other big key, the big aha moment for me. When I would mess up or when I would make a not so good choice, I removed the words bad choice from my vocabulary.
Yep.
There are no bad choices. There are good choices, great choices, and not so good choices. When I would make a not so good choice, I would simply say, I forgive myself. Next time we'll do something differently. And
Mm.
then if I needed to, I would ask myself the follow-up question, what was really going on? Because
Mm.
so many times when we make a not so good choice, our emotions are getting tangled up in whatever it is that's happening. And
Yeah.
as a consequence, we're making a not so good choice. But here's the magic. When we ask ourselves that question, what's really going on? I would encourage people to follow it up with, when was the first time that I experienced this? Because
Mm.
part of what we are talking about is, the past, it's not in control,
No,
but we drag the past into
we
our
do.
present.
Mm.
And when we start recognizing, okay, you know what? Back when I was about 6 years old, I can remember that even though we had money was not a problem. It was access to a variety of food that was an issue because of where we lived. It was not
Mm-hmm.
easily accessible. So we had limited options in the house. And as a consequence, when I was presented with an opportunity, for the sweets and the treats and
Yes.
all of those kinds, even good meats and things like that, I felt as if I would never have it again.
Yeah. Okay.
And I drug that into my present. And I can feel sometimes, I better eat all these cookies right now. I'm never going to have them again. Brisket. I can cook a brisket. I used to, not so much anymore, but I could cook a brisket and I could eat almost the entire thing by myself because I had the thought, I'm never going to have this again. But it
Mm.
took me asking myself, when was the first time I felt that? When was the first time I experienced it? What was going on? What was the real story?
Mm.
And in answering that question, I was able to look right here, right now, and ask myself, is that still true? No. I can go to the store. The store is a mile away.
Yeah.
I have I have money in my bank account.
Mm. I like
I,
that. It reminds me of a Thursday night. I was in between shifts at the gym. I had a physical gym at that point. And so I was standing downstairs. I was about to walk into the store to buy a chocolate bar. And I stopped and I thought, what are you doing? Like, you don't really want a chocolate bar. You're just doing it. You do this every Thursday night. Why are you doing this? What is it that is driving you to go and buy this thing? Um, and what I came up with was every Thursday night, I had twin boys and my ex-husband. So he would work 7 days a week. So he was hardly home, but he always, Thursday nights, we had one car. And so he would come and get us and we would go to the shop and we would get our groceries for the week and we would have a treat. And it was that I was trying to recreate that experience
mm-hmm.
of that happiness that I had having that chocolate bar and sitting, just on a park bench somewhere with my kids.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
like, I can recreate this feeling for myself without actually having to eat that chocolate bar. There are so many other things that I can do that will make me feel like that again.
Mm-hmm. Which is where the title "You Can't Eat Love" comes from my
Mm,
book, because I had that recognition, that moment when I realized I didn't have to eat the food to relive the memory.
mm.
I could simply relive the memory.
Yeah, that's right. And that's that past part of it, and then bringing it into that current moment. So if we talk about how the future pulls you forward, how has your mindset or how you're approaching things each day, how does that future life play out in that for you?
Well, interesting that you should ask, because it's one of the things that I have found to be the most powerful for me.
Yes.
I envision, well, first of all, I set a goal for myself that I'm going to live to be 153 years old in one day. Why the one day? Because I'm going to celebrate all 24 hours of my 153rd birthday. And at 12:01 a.m. on the next day, I'm going to move on to wherever I'm moving on. So I had that goal in mind, and people are like, oh my gosh. And I remind them, you know what? Nobody ever missed mediocrity. And I say to myself, when I get to my 153rd birthday, I want to be feeling good. I want to be looking good. I want to be feeling strong and powerful and moving under my own power and moving at a pretty good pace. And this is what I want to be thinking, and this is what I want to be feeling. And I want to stand there on my 153rd birthday, and I want to say, Leslie, of 59 years old, I know that life was hard. I know that you thought that we were never going to get to this moment. I know you were about to give up, but you know what? Leslie, of 59 years of age, I am so grateful you didn't quit. And I am celebrating Leslie, of 59 years of age, all day long on my 153rd birthday. So that's how I use all of that. I project forward. Yes. And remember, every decision, every choice, every action that I'm taking today is impacting the life that Leslie of 153 years of age is going to have.
Is going to have. Yeah. I really like that. The thing about us humans is that we want that immediate gratification, that immediate result. We want those rewards straight away. So delving into the future can be a very difficult aspect or thought to have. But what I've come to learn over the years is, as we move into those 50s and then get into those 60s and beyond, we start to actually think more about, the majority of my life is probably done now, and I've got so many more years to have. What am I going to do with that? What does that look like? But then there are those women like my mum who just goes, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And she's just waiting to go. She sits in her house and looks at four walls. Have you any thoughts around what the differences are between someone who says, I'm gonna do what I can do, as opposed to, I'm just going to give up?
Well, one of the things that I have discovered is, look at what the people before them were doing. Yeah. If because the thing that I've really come to understand is, if we understand the generational history of our family, we can understand the thought processes of the people like your parents in the present. Yes. And we can understand, why we possibly rebel against the thought processes of our parents in the present. So I would say someone who has made a decision that my life is over, I'm just going to sit here and, I'm going to wait it out. Ask, where did they learn that from? Because they learned it from somewhere, just as we all learned everything from somewhere.
Yeah.
And women of your mother's generation, truly, they were taught, if you don't have family, you don't have anything. So if you don't have family and you're not taking care of family, what is your purpose? You have no purpose. Fortunately for the women of our generation, we have learned, through the School of Hard Knocks, we have more purpose than just having family.
Yes.
But if you look at people who define their entire life as being somebody's mother, somebody's wife, somebody's caretaker, and that's taken away from them, they no longer have any purpose.
Yeah.
And the way that you can, and that can even affect us individually, and the way that I say that we can get past that if it's up to us, because remember, you're only in control of you, everybody else is in control of them. So the way that I can get past that is to start celebrating the little tiny wins and redefine myself. Who am I? Who is Leslie? Well, Leslie, you know what? Leslie's pretty amazing. She can tell a great story. She's not so hot on jokes, but she can tell a good story. She's kind of funny. She's creative. She can come up with all these crazy ideas. Anyway, that's who I am. Do I have children? Yes, I do. I also have four-legged children, and I have four-legged grandchildren, and I have three grandchildren, and I've got, three daughters in love. But you know what? And I have a husband who is an amazing person. He puts up with me, so that makes him even more amazing. But you know what? None of those things define who I am.
No, that's right. That's right.
And when we define ourselves according to other people, and we lose whatever that definition is, we have no purpose. And when we have no purpose, we're like some of the trucks that we have sitting in our back pasture. They just sit and they rust. They're waiting to be hauled off.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where your mother is sitting. She has no purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So just recently, my husband has been in hospital. He almost died from septic arthritis. His whole body started shutting down. And so he's on the mend, which is wonderful. He's home now. But one of the things about it was I could see that emotional and mental toll playing out on him. And so one night when I went to bed, I got out my journal, as I normally do, and I started writing what are things that he could do if he couldn't do the things that he loves, just as a thought process. And the next morning, when he was a bit mopey and everything like that, I said to him, I actually wrote these things down, and I'm just going to throw some of them at you because, it's about rethinking what you can currently do. You can't do those things that you used to do, but at some point you'll be able to redo them. But for now, here's some ideas for you. And it was interesting that he went, oh, I like that one. So there were about 3 different ideas that he went, and he did adopt. And you could see that change in his thought processes. So sometimes having that support, I think, is a really important thing to actually go, here's some great ideas, and I know that for Mum, I will give her ideas, but she's not open to those ideas. She's closed to those ideas. And again, that's the difference between us as humans, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And there can also, these are the people that I really love. And I'm sure you know many of them. There are those yes, but people. We throw something out,
yeah.
Why don't you go? You could try, you used to, whatever. Well, yes, but. Yeah. And I started calling people out, and I say to them, the truth follows the but.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to say that you're going to attempt something or do something, put a period at the end of the sentence and don't say but, because the truth comes after the but. And when we try and encourage other people to do something to get out of their comfort zone, actually a sneaky way to do it, and it is very sneaky, and I have done this on my husband, so it does work. All right. So don't tell
we won't let him listen to this.
Yeah, Don't let him listen to this. Um, when we notice someone doing something that we want them to continue doing, I don't care how big or small it is, comment. You know, the other day I noticed that you, for example, the other day I noticed that you put the dishes in the dishwasher, and I just want to let you know how much I really appreciated that. It saved me some time. And it was just really great. And I just wanted to thank you. I noticed that you said some kind words to your brother, sister, or whatever, when they were feeling a little bit sad the other day. I just wanted to let you know that I noticed that, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. Hey, Mom, you know, the other day I noticed that you walked outside and you pulled some weeds. I just can only imagine how you were feeling as you were doing that. Wow. I just wanted to say I noticed that.
And again,
what you're doing is you're giving people those dopamine hits.
What you're doing is actually celebrating that person.
Right.
So you're giving them that reward that we need to be able to learn how to give to ourselves.
Correct.
Okay, so many women will start off on this journey of change to live healthy lives and to change something about themselves physically, emotionally, spiritually. And they'll take a step forward, and then they might take 2 steps back. And so they can tend to sabotage themselves, or they might allow someone else in their household to sabotage them. But again, that comes back to them and their personal responsibility to themselves. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that we're always looking for the easy way out. And if we allow the diet police or the get healthy police or just the change police to be part of our life, we're never going to accomplish that which we set out to accomplish, because we are going to give them all the power. We're going to give them all the power so that when we, quote unquote, fail, it's not our fault. When I went on the journey that I went on, I didn't say a word to anyone about what I was doing. I joined, a couple of groups for support and to help figure things out. But overall, in my world, nobody knew what I was doing. Why did I do that? I didn't want the diet police or the change police or any of those people to show up and give me any kind of pushback. The people that I shared my journey with were people who were also on a journey that was similar to mine. I didn't ask for accountability. I didn't ask for support. Okay. Now, by sharing with someone who's on the same journey, you get support.
You do,
But here's the thing that I understood. As I was beginning to make changes, the people around me, especially my husband, he made the comment, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not sure if I like it. And I just looked at him and I just smiled and I went on about my business. The problem when we begin to change, when we decide that we are important enough to us to get healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally, we start changing. We start changing our thought process. We start changing the way we speak to ourselves. We start changing the way we treat ourselves. And we start changing how we will allow other people to treat us. Now, here's the piece that happens. We are doing all these wonderful things for us. The people in our world, in our orbit, the people who are close to us, they have 2 choices. They can either adjust.
Get on the bus.
Without our telling them that they need to adjust, they decide to start adjusting to what we're doing, or they can remain the same. If they remain the same, we need to be prepared to weed the garden. we need to be prepared to look at the people in our life that are not doing what we need to do, what we need them to do, which is treat us better, speak to us better, do these things, because we're no longer accepting bad behavior.
Yeah.
We need to recognize that it's our responsibility to move them to Pluto. I moved a lot of people to Pluto. Why Pluto? Well, they're still in the solar system, but they only pass me by every now and then.
Yeah.
But we need to recognize that it's our responsibility. We are in control of us. We are not in control of them. If we are serious about taking care of us and living our best life, we need to be willing to accept that some people may need to be moved a little bit further out of our orbit.
It reminds me of a story of myself. I love telling stories of my ex-husband, and not that I don't like him or anything like that, but our twin boys were teenagers at the time, and he used to get home from work at that point about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30 or something. And I worked in the corporate industry in the city, so I didn't get home till late. And I used to come in every day and I'd start putting on my shoes and I'd go, hello, everybody, mwah, mwah, mwah. And then I'd say, okay, I'll see you soon. And so off I'd go on a walk or run a jog or whatever it was that I felt like doing. And he said to me, why do you do that? Like, why don't you just cook dinner? And I said, oh, we'll talk about that later. Because I thought, oh, no, I'm not going to get into that now. So went off on my business, came home, cooked dinner, sat down at the table, and I said, okay, so let's talk about the question that you just asked. Why don't I just cook dinner? Here's what happens when I'm out pounding the pavement. I am lost in my thoughts. I am able to process every crappy thing that happened during the course of the day. And what you get when I sit down at this dinner table is happy Peter, and you're not being dumped on for all of the trivial things that have occurred during the course of my day. And he went, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then I said, and here's the kicker, that you get home so much earlier. If you'd like to learn how to cook, I'll show you how to do that too. Well, he learned how to cook. He even went and had cooking lessons on all different types of cooking, and he loves cooking. But our boys ended up becoming chefs. All from a conversation about trying to draw me back into what the expectation was of what I would do each day.
Yeah. And look at you. You were taking care of yourself. You were creating that boundary, that personal boundary that said, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but right now you don't get to push against my boundary. I'm going to go off and I'm going to take care of myself. And then we'll have a conversation a little bit later. I laugh about you talking about your drive back in and then going and pounding the pavement. I often said, my drive wasn't long enough. My commute was only 7 minutes. It just was not long enough. It just was not long enough.
No. It's interesting. So yeah, you have to find what's right for you. I love listening to podcast shows or audiobooks and everything like that. And it's like, where do you find time to do that? Well, I'm dropping grandkids at school and they're half an hour away. So, there's an hour in my day where I can actually be working on my growth and in doing something for me. So it's finding those opportunities, I think, that we need to look for as well too. Let's talk about boundaries though, because that was something that just cropped up there. So I set a boundary, you've set boundaries. How do you think we go about setting these boundaries in a loving and kind way to those people who do want to pull us back into sabotaging ourselves?
Oftentimes when we hear discussions about boundaries, it's between us and another person.
Mm.
And what I came to understand is the first boundary that I need to create is the boundary with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that begin? That begins by saying, I will not speak to myself in a certain way. I will not speak about myself in a certain way. I will not have certain thoughts about myself in a certain way. This is behavior that is no longer acceptable. This is behavior that is acceptable. This is what I intend. I use a lot of intend. This is what I desire.
Mm-hmm.
And I started establishing. How many times have you dropped something and you said, oh my gosh, I can't believe how stupid I was or clumsy I was or fill in
Right.
the blank? I'm going to add your vocabulary. That, interestingly enough, tells somebody else that it is okay for them to speak to you in that fashion.
Yeah.
Your actions speak louder than your words. And if you say to someone, don't speak to me that way, well, that causes confusion because they just heard you saying how clumsy you were, how whatever you were. Really, I can't, call you a ditz or whatever. No. So I made a conscious choice to observe and pay attention to what and how I spoke to myself and about myself. So that started strengthening the boundary of what I would accept from myself.
Mm.
Now, here is the big secret. We teach other people how to treat us by how we are treating ourselves.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
as I started treating myself more kindly, more intentionally, more encouragingly, because I didn't used to encourage myself very much, as I started believing in myself more, well, then the other people around me started feeling uncomfortable. I could tell they were uncomfortable, but that wasn't my problem because I'm not in control of them. They started feeling uncomfortable about what they were doing. And if I said, you cannot speak to me that way, they knew that I meant it. Now,
Yeah.
that change did not occur overnight. That's, takes a little bit of time. But again, it goes back to what we started with at the beginning. When I would catch myself and reframe those unhelpful thoughts, I would celebrate. Look at you. You caught that thought. Wow, that is so amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I celebrate everything. So it's like somebody said recently, or I've heard it many times, until further notice, celebrate everything.
I do like that what you're doing is you're not setting the boundary with the other person. You're setting the boundaries for yourself of how you will respond, how you will act, how you will think. And that will therefore send that message to the other people around you.
Well,
Yeah.
you have horses, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yep. Okay, so you have a fence up around your property, correct?
Yeah.
And the fence is there to protect the stuff that's on the inside, right?
It is.
And because you have that fence, you are saying to the outside world, this is what I will and will not accept, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
And we have to recognize when we allow people to push up against that fence, just like you've got that physical fence, when we allow people or animals or something to push up against that fence, then we're saying, you know what, I only sort of kind of meant it. I didn't really mean it. If you want to push it a little bit harder, I will allow you to, knock the fence over.
Yeah.
And right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like the girlfriends that you're out and about with and they say, do you want a drink? And you go, no, I don't want a drink. And then they go, oh, okay, and they walk away and then they come back again and go, oh, do you want a drink? So you keep trying to push that as well too. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So let's finish up with what is the best piece of advice that you could give to someone about being able to, peel those onion layers away and to connect with themselves? I think this is a really good gem.
Well, the first thing that I would suggest is that you get a notebook and you get a pen. And
Yeah.
when you start feeling or hearing those noises inside your head, or you start feeling the tension inside your body, ask yourself, what is really going on right now?
Mm-hmm.
And answer the question in writing. Answer
Yes.
the question in writing. Let's not hire any hamsters. We want to keep the hamsters out of our head. And then as you are writing and you are discovering the feelings, say to yourself, and yes, I really and truly do this. So this is not something I'm telling you to do and I don't do it. I really and truly do it. As you start discovering the feelings and the why, what is really going on, say to yourself and write it down. Of course you feel that way. Why would you?
Yeah. Yeah. So acknowledge it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can go on and you can, continue answering the question. And sometimes I will say to myself, and I say it to people, and it drives one of my kids crazy, I can only imagine how you felt. And I'll write that down. I can only imagine how you felt when that person said that. I can only imagine how you felt when you made that mistake. I can only imagine how you felt when, fill in the blank. And then I allow the conversation to continue.
Yes.
But the reason that I say do it in writing is you want to get the conversation out of your head.
Yes.
I do not reread a single thing that I write.
No. I've got
I have a
journals.
I have a stack of notebooks in my closet. My kids will have confirmation that their mother's crazy when I'm gone. But I don't reread anything. Somebody asked me the other day, why don't you reread it? And I said, well, I'm having a conversation with my very best friend in the whole wide world. That's me. And unlike this conversation, which is being recorded, most conversations are not recorded.
Yeah.
When you end the conversation, you end the conversation. So why do I want to go back and reread after I finish pouring my heart out to my very best friend in the whole wide world? No, that's not helpful. And then I would say the next thing that I would recommend that you do, and yes, I do this also, go to the store, find an amazing card that you would like somebody to send you, buy it for yourself, and sit down and write a letter from yourself a year from now.
Yeah.
The you of today, thank you so much for everything you did so that I am living my best life right now, and get as detailed as you possibly can. Thank you for choosing to eat a different way. Thank you for choosing to move, whatever. It's your world, created in as much detail and technicolor as you possibly can. And then I want you to put it someplace safe. Don't do what I've done. Write a reminder as to where it is, put it in, a calendar, but in a year, I want you to read that letter. And you'll be amazed at how much has come true. Now, that's not the end. No. After you read that, after you bask in that glow, after you do a little happy dance and, some shouting and yes, I believe in life after love by Cher and all those good things, do it again.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. I like that. And of course, when you write things down, you're 42% more likely to, act and to do something with it as well too. So you've got that reinforcement to yourself that you're worthy, that you are the very best person that you can be for yourself.
No. And write, don't type, write. Pen and paper.
Yeah, because you want it to get into your brain. You don't, yeah, exactly right. Leslie, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. I really, really appreciate it. I think that ladies are going to get so many great pieces of advice and little nuggets along the way that they can take away, and hopefully what they'll be is inspired to actually take those little steps and to just take those little moments, or as you said, every little second, just keep reinforcing to themselves that they are worthy of living their best life.
Mm-hmm. Well, Peta, it's always a thrill to get to talk to you, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. And
You are
yes,
very welcome. Very welcome. It's a pleasure. And I'll see you in Australia when you get here.
awesome. Awesome. It's a date.
All right. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.